I don't remember when it started or how it started, but I remember I was young. 'Cause I remember I had a hard time doing push-ups. And my dad said that I must have said something, and he implemented this rule where we couldn't say can't.
There was always, I think John charged him a quarter if they said the word can't growing up. And so, they learned real quick not to say that word because the allowance wasn't that big, so.
I don't think Dow and John can fail at anything because they won't accept that. They reinvent, reinvigorate, they change, they adapt. Failure just isn't in the vocabulary.
And there's been other modifications to my vocabulary that I think really come into where we kind of determine what the limitations are that we set on ourselves.
So at Didion, burn the boats at the shore means that failure is not an option, that we're going to succeed, and that we're going to pull together as a team and all commit more than we thought we had in us to make sure that we're successful.
It's an expectation. It's this expectation that we will figure it out. It's about us getting it right and taking care of our customers, taking care of our vendors, most importantly, taking care of each other and doing it safely.
I think it's who we are, how we were raised, how we worked. If you fail fast, react, and we'll learn from that and move forward.
They both come from a family where you work hard. And I think they gained that from their parents, watching their parents. Their father working, he was his own businessman as a veterinarian and worked long, hard hours. They saw that. They saw their mother as part of the business, watched her work not only to manage the business, but raise a family, 6 children. So I think that foundation for them was very important and talks a lot about who they are.
Mom answered the phone for the clinic. She took care of 6 kids. She made all the meals. She did the books. So they were quite a team.
I can remember John's mom and dad coming to the plant. It would be common to see them on a Friday afternoon stopping in just to see how things are going.
Well, I think it's a positive attitude in the way we approach life in general. And it really came from our parents. That, like as we talked about before, the work ethic, it really came down and trickled down to all of us, and that was just how we approach things.
What John's saying sticks in my mind, that negativity and creativity cannot occupy the same space.
But it's one of those life lessons that you look back on, and whenever we said can't in the house, you had to do 5 push-ups. And I think it was one of those things that, for me, instilled really early on, as there may be things that you don't want to do, there may be things that are going to be really difficult, but there are very few things in life that are really not possible.
John and Dow grew up on a farm, their dad being a veterinarian. They've told the story multiple times, and it's not just a story, you can see it in the way they act. And me growing up in rural Wisconsin, it was the same type of thing. You helped your neighbor out. It wasn't always just for you, and you weren't above anything. It was, this is the right thing to do. This is the way you do things.
Early in our childhood, Dad got us a tractor, and we started messing around with it and farming, and took an interest in the grain side of the business, and did that through grade school and junior high and high school. I think the early frost of 1974 made me realize that I probably should stick with the grain business and not try to farm.
And I remember looking at John and saying, if you ever think we're going to live on a farm, I'm not your girl. And he said, no, we're not going to live on a farm, but.
John and Dow can relate to and can talk to any one of our producers. I have producers still to this day ask me how John's doing, how's Dow doing, what's going on in the family. And when we have customer events where the customers come in, they like to go and talk to John and Dow, and John and Dow don't feel like they're above them. Riley, the same thing. They love to connect with them. And the fact that John and Dow probably haven't bought grain for 15 to 20 years, at least since I've been there, that's how big of an impact they've had on the rural community.
And I think as kids, we got used to, seeing farmers, visiting farms with Dad. So agriculture was in our blood, to begin with. And
That was, back then, it was kind of the time when people wanted a pet skunk. And so they did skunk descenting in the clinic. And I think that might be what drove the clinic to a new location, was when they screwed that up and, and the scent went through the house. So, great memories.
yeah, it was about that time when all of these small dairy farms that Dad took care of started going out of business. It was that next generation that decided that they weren't going to continue farming, or there wasn't enough livestock for the kids to take over the farm, and so they just got out of the livestock business and went into the cash grain production business. And there just wasn't a place to take cash grain. There wasn't a place to market their grain, and I just looked at it as an opportunity for us to provide a market for farmers. And as an organization, we wanted to provide a higher value of services to our customers. We felt like our marketing, the goal of our marketing efforts were to improve the rural communities in our market area, and we did that by returning more money back into the community and helping farmers market their products better.
Well, it started out, both John and I just did everything. Dumping trucks, running a grain dryer, sweeping, cleaning. It was, basically the two of us running the business until Dow joined us a couple of years later.
Well, Dow would always come home on the weekends to help John, with the business. Dow was always really handy, hands-on. He was fixing equipment or dumping loads of corn or...
And I'd drive back every weekend and work, so John could have some time off. So I would get back Friday afternoon and work Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday, and then drive back to school. And then John could have the weekend off, or at least some of it anyway. So I got my 40 hours in over the weekend. So.
Yeah, Dow's obviously was the operational part of the business. That was just something that he did and did well. John was, looking at the future, always looking at what the next project was, what our next markets were, how we would approach that.
The market was Milwaukee, and I did have my learner's permit, so. Yeah, I would take a semi into Milwaukee in the early days and follow another one of our trucks in and follow them back.
They're always continuously improving and building and adding on. I think at that time, they had 3 or 4 locations where they were doing the same thing, buying grain, storing grain, and then reselling the grain. I
think as Dow mentioned, the grain belt continued to move north in Wisconsin. And so, we'd open a facility 30 miles away, and grain just continued to come from further north of that facility. Horicon in 82, Ripon in 84, McFarland in 86, Cambria in 88, then the mill in 90, and Green Bay in 92.
When Horicon came on board, that was a rail facility, as well as Ripon and Green Bay and Cambria. That was the edge that gave us a little more of a jump on the competition, because they continued to move things by truck and we had the ability to move it by rail. And I think that was one of the things that gave us the edge, is we were always looking at, how could we do this better?
It was right when I first started working with the company. Somebody asked Dow, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened at Didion? And he thought for a while, and he talked about the story when John and Dow first started. They had a grain bin, and how they would tell how full the grain bin was. One of them would throw a rock at it. And I'm probably gonna mess this story up, but Dow was throwing a rock at it to try to see where it was hollow, so they knew how much corn was in it. And John walks around the corner of the bin. He says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Checking the bin level." And they walk around the other side of the bin, and Dow had missed the bin and threw a rock through John's new truck windshield.
I was pretty shy growing up, and John was, even in high school, I was shy, and John was an athlete. You know, he was, on the prom court and, star football player and all of that. So parents were best friends. So my mom and John's mom were best of friends, and John's dad and my dad were best of friends. So we had family get-togethers. In fact, I used to babysit for Dow growing up. But I honestly don't remember John back then. I don't remember, he was 3 years older and probably off with all the, older kids. And
Yeah, in starting the business, it was everything, right? I lived there around the clock, and during the days, it was operate the business at night.
we're just going to live in the basement of the grain elevator.
It was 24-foot square. So what is that? Almost 500 square feet.
When you walked through the door, it was this open room, which at the time when I started dating him had just an old refrigerator sitting in the middle of the room. And then in the bedroom, there was a mattress on the floor.
I was single, wasn't married, and so it was fine.
There wasn't even a bathroom in that apartment. We shared it with the farmers. The bathroom was outside of the apartment because, it was just John at the time. So when I moved in, that was a nightmare.
Matter of fact, I got married and we lived there for a while, and I thought it was still fine. I think when Ann saw a mouse or two running around, she decided that we needed to find some other place to live. But
One of the things I like about the business is they were always hands-on from day one since I was out there. They'd be out there helping me dump corn trucks, running the grain dryer, troubleshooting grain dryers, anything that we needed a hand with. They would always be there to help support you in completing the mission.
In 19 years, I've seen John and Dow on the front line running the bagger. I've seen them cutting trees down. I've seen John running the bulldozer, building the silos. When they were building the silos after I started, Dow was up there pulling concrete, helping lay the forms.
Day in and day out, those teams love to see Dow stroll out onto the packaging line to help their values translate really well because it lifts everybody else up.
And so there's a huge commitment from their part. And whether that's, John showing up on Black Friday at the bioscience plant when we were building it, and he's tiling the bathrooms by hand. There's a commitment both in their effort, financial commitment, energy, emotions.
You certainly see John and Dow in the facilities, walking around, talking to our team, asking questions. They ask people how it's going and what ideas do they have to make things better. So they're very approachable, very genuine.
You watch them work as you learn how they think, as you stop to look through the world through their eyes. You learn something with every conversation.
It is, we are a small business, and being able to work alongside the leaders of the business and see and touch and have an impact, it's a pretty powerful thing. There's a lot of personal accountability there.
If John and Dow didn't have a dream 50 years ago, millions of people would go to bed hungry. That one little bag we make with very little effort feeds a baby or an expected mother for 2 weeks. And then when you're putting out 70,000 bags a day, it makes you realize how many hungry people there are in the world. And we can go to our cupboards and say, there's nothing here to eat. There's nothing there we want to eat. And they're just looking for their next meal, and we're supplying it for them because John and Dow had a dream.
Yeah, initially we could make the government products and corn grits for brewer's grits.
Remarkable to see how different parts of this program have helped needy people around the world, and how they've made dramatic improvements in their operations and their ability to feed their own people and actually be a net exporter.
It started with Didion just coming out of college, and I was probably 4 or 5 months in,
and we had a lot of business on the books with the government, and all of a sudden everything just comes to a halt.
Challenge with the government business is it's bid monthly, and so you don't know what your business is going to be the next month, and there may be a bid to bid on, production to bid on, and there may not be. And the production challenges that caused, that if there was a large contract, you had to scale up your workforce and produce that by the deadline, and then if there wasn't a bid the next month, you are now long a bunch of people and you don't have anything for them to do. And so that was the biggest factor in pivoting and saying, we need domestic business. We need a customer that's going to be there the entire year, month in and month out. And then we can fill in with these government bids.
Back in, before Jeff Dillon started, I guess it would have been around that time frame, 2004, 2006. We were pretty much all government business, was month to month. So we brought Jeff on board to help build that domestic business. And it was kind of funny because Jeff came from a mill that was much more mature than Didion at the time. We had a pretty limited product line, product base.
You can sell flours and finely granulated meals and coarse meals and pre-gels and whole grains, but we didn't make any of that.
And so Jeff would constantly come back to the executive team with all these leads. And very seldomly could we make what he's trying to sell.
And so I would bring these new ideas and say, John, Dow, this is what we need to make. And here's the spec sheets, and there's customers out there that want that.
And so we'd come into these executive teams meetings, and there was typically two ways it could go. One is, Jeff, go sell some shit we can actually make. Or two, John, or most usually Dow, I think I can build something to make that.
Yeah, Jeff would always come to us with this new product, and it's like, and my comment to him was, can't you sell what we make? And Jeff's like, no, that's not what the customer needs.
And it got to be a game. It was, Dow finally said, would you just sell some shit that we can make instead of bring? And I said, well, what can we make?
And Jeff would say, well, when can we get this done? Dow gives him a date. Jeff goes out, engages the customer, starts the sales process, and invariably things don't go as planned, right, as quickly as planned.
And so we'd take the specification, we'd take the sample, and all right, we need to add this piece of equipment, we need to add this line, and then he'd sell that, and then he'd go out and find something else we couldn't make.
I've sold him 2 truckloads of corn grits, brewer's grits, and we needed to deliver them in a couple of weeks. Well, we started trying to make those truckloads of grits, and it took all of 2 weeks. We were at the 11th hour making this product, and we had thrown away truck after truck of trying to get it in granulation and spec. And we got it in and the trucks passed.
That's part of the success of the organization, right? Is that the willingness, the ability, and the drive to respond to opportunities.
So we sell it and then figured out how to make it. So today, when I have a new product, I naturally call Dow to bounce ideas off of him to see if he thinks it will work, because I know if he believes it, that it will make it happen.
And I thought about how many times I was sitting in a restaurant with John or Dow, and they were designing systems, equipment, processes on a napkin. We'd be at the restaurant and we'd flip over to the mat and they'd ask the waitress for some crayons to start mapping things out.
John's kind of a quiet guy, but once you get him going, and you ask him about things he's passionate about, then he'll go, right? Because now it's like in his fabric.
You know, John is typically, 10, 11 steps ahead of everybody else, right? And it is hard to keep up with him. By the time you get ready to start implementing what he wants to do today, he's already working on what we should be doing tomorrow.
He has a notebook in the shower too. He has a notepad and a pen that writes in water, because he said some of his best ideas come when he's in the shower. I never knew there was such a thing. He probably ordered on Amazon. All of a sudden one day I got in the shower and there's a notepad and a pen.
I'm guessing it all starts with John on a napkin, right? It's just drawing it out on a whiteboard and playing around, and one idea leads to the next, and it just starts snowballing. And when John gets going, it's hard to slow him down.
It doesn't have to be practical for it to be a reality.
I remember meeting with John and had met with him for about an hour, and it felt like a minute. It was just a great conversation. I felt really connected to him, and I felt his love for the business and the people, and it's a conversation I'll never forget.
My dad and I are very much wired the same, and so from that perspective, I just, he's one of my best friends, and I just kind of wanted to come back and work with him, and they had built something that was really unique and special in my mind. And
we were at Dow and Cindy's for Thanksgiving, and afterwards we often would play games, and Coral brought over the game catchphrase. When it came to John, he looked at it and
without his glasses on, and thought the word was
round of applesauce. And so for the next 5 minutes, he's trying to get us to guess round of applesauce, but it was really round of applause. Going forward, we often now remind him of
a round of applesauce.
Round of applesauce. Yeah. So I wish we could have had that on film.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Dow's personality and my dad's personality are actually very, very similar people. Very hands-on, very practical, very humble. And so for both of them, yeah, there's this element that I want to make them proud.
I would say he's stoic, thoughtful, sharp, funny, hardworking.
Dow was a person who was always figuring out how something worked. I'm impressed by his engineering self. He could look at something and make it work, figure out how to recreate it in some way and make it work. So he was always trying to think of a new way to get himself into trouble. Yeah.
Dow's always been the hands-on guy where who's going to push the dirt around to build this plant, and there would be Dow out there driving a bulldozer around and dumping the concrete.
And so for me, I was thinking back to a time when I had started working over at the milling facility. I spent a whole bunch of time putting together this grand master plan on what we were going to do electrically, and I took that plan, which was weeks and weeks worth of planning, and I had all the details worked out. I had contingency plans, and I had it to a T. And I took that plan, and I remember throwing it on Dow's desk and going, Dow, here's what we need to do. I got a good plan around it. Here's the plan. Here's all the data behind it. And I had sheets, and I had all kinds of stuff I threw on his desk. And he sat and just kind of stared at it for a little bit, and he goes, well, did you consider this? And it was like one sentence. And I sat there kind of dumbfounded when I thought I had this nailed to a T, and no, I hadn't considered that.
It's funny, like growing up, your dad is your dad, and you just think of your dad as your dad. And it wasn't until I really came to Didion that I saw a whole nother dimension of my dad and my uncle.
So with Dow, I usually talk about his garden. I talk about his grandchildren. and he gets a huge smile on his face and loves to share what's going on in his life. He is very genuine, very real with people, and people connect with him, and they look to him for leadership.
Great story about Dow, though, is when I first got involved with him, his property is off I-94 between Oconomowoc and Madison. And my grandkids at the time were young enough that we would drive by and I would point out Dow's property. Well, at the time, not far from his barn, he had a pond where he had swans. And my grandkids they knew they were coming to the swans. They didn't care about Dow, but they were going to drive past and see the swans. Well, one day the swans disappeared. And, as Dow told me, they flew away and decided to go elsewhere to live. And my grandkids never got over that.
Dow's bad sense of humor, bad jokes.
Dad jokes.
I think Dow is unbelievably funny, and Dow's a great storyteller. Maybe it's a Didion weird sense of humor, but there's sometimes somebody can say something and I'll look at Dow. There's probably been half a dozen times where I'll look at Dow and I can't look back at him again because we'll both just crack up.
It's not just, at work. I think they're just voracious learners in general. They seek people out. They're interested in what they do and find out why they do what they do and how they do it.
I think they're kind of yin and yang to each other, so they learn and play off each other and they problem solve together. They really are a good match.
I think the biggest thing that I see from both knowing them, before working with them and then working with them, is their skill sets really complement each other.
John is the scientist. I view Dow as the mechanic. And they're a great blend that way.
When you look at John and Dow, who are stoic, when they speak, everyone listens because, there's something important that's going to be said.
John's calling the offensive play, and then Dow gets out there in the field and runs it and gets it done.
They have different gifts, and it just works so well together.
One dynamic is they each know what their strengths are, what strengths they bring to the table, and they let the other play to their strength.
They're just very, very brilliant business people and very complex personalities, even though they would have you think that they're these very, very simple agricultural business people. They are simple in many respects, but very, very sophisticated business people.
Very deep thinkers, very comfortable with very long pauses in meetings, which can be a very uncomfortable thing when you're in a conference call with them. You may go a minute or a minute and a half and not hear a word because they're pondering, they're thinking.
Both of them have really big hearts. And sometimes that's not always seen because they can both be very, very quiet. And they care deeply about people. But sometimes they challenge, they express it in different ways.
I think John is more of that strategic visionary, and Dow is the one who can take that vision and put it into action. Build a mill from scratch, really.
And I think John and Dow, kind of have a similar mentality. It's just their capability is so far off the charts that what people think is crazy and can't be done, they just don't view it that way at all because they've done it before.
So they look at things from different views, and at the end of the day, the views have to come together to be successful.
Both of them, I would say, if I had to use one phrase, I would say highest integrity.
We started up an ethanol plant in 2008 at a time when half of the companies that were starting up went out of business.
Actually, the idea to do ethanol came early after we started up the mill. I remember visiting a place in '95 and looking at the milling, at the ethanol side of their business, and it made perfect sense to be able to take the byproduct of our milling operation and make ethanol out of it. And it took us some time to make that happen. In the end, there was only so much value you could add to that bushel of corn. We're really in this unique business where we're just surrounded by customers.
The producers helped push that through. They were, there was people against it, but the producers got together and they had tractor parades, they had rallies.
In our case, with the ethanol plant, our millers are quality first and then work on yield, but retain the best part of the kernel for food grade products, and everything else can go to make alcohol. It was a little different model than most dry corn mills, where their focus is entirely on quality of the product.
Really made a lot of sense, you know, because at that time we had a lot of just a mill feed left over, and he's just trying to capitalize on and getting some extra value out of what's left over. So.
And we started operations in 2008. And every bushel of corn we processed into ethanol, we lost money on because the markets were horrible. There was no margin in the business. We were late to the game, so supply had outpaced the demand, and so here we sat with this huge investment of resources, time, sweat, blood, and the reward was we're losing money like crazy. And so the sense of euphoria or joy that usually accompanies an opening of a new plant, we're like, this is horrible. We can't make any money. Luckily the market's turned around.
I can only imagine how horrible it must have been for them to receive the news. In fact, I often think of Dow coming back from Canada knowing that this had occurred, and my heart just goes out to the two of them to know that something so tragic happened at their company. Hearing John's news, calling and telling us what happened, it was gut-wrenching. And so my heart went out to the two of them, and then to the community, to the families that were affected. It was so horrible for everybody.
How can you not be devastated when something like that happens? It was always about every one of those people as an individual, not treating them as a mass. It was here's what employee A needs. It's different than what employee D needs, and they worked their way around that.
But to me, the pivotal point was within 24 hours. Of course, all of the employers are wondering, well, are we going to continue on? Is this business? Are we going to have jobs? Or is this company going to go on?
We had 80 people who had no jobs overnight. So there was a decision made very early on, again within days after losing the mill, that we would continue to provide jobs for anybody who wanted to stay with our team.
What do we have to do first? We have to take care of our employees.
So we came up with an idea to reverse engineer the recruiting process and essentially provide labor and staff to businesses in the community. And our employees would stay on our payroll, they would stay on our benefit plan, they would be part of our team, and they would be working someplace else for a while until we could rebuild.
And so it was probably within about a 15-minute conversation and probably even less, that there really wasn't a lot of questions of what we were going to do.
I think any other company would have laid people off. And there would have been job loss, negative impact to the community, and really great disruption in people's lives and in the community we were working in. I think this was the hard path, and because people are a priority, that was the decision of leadership and the ownership of Didion.
I was just moved by how much they really, really cared. Not that I didn't think that they did before, but until you see folks when the chips are down, it just reaffirmed for me, and I shared that with them, that I'm here because you guys really do care, and I'm gonna stay, and we're gonna rebuild this.
Probably didn't make sense from a business perspective, but like I said, our team is family, and you wouldn't leave someone out on the street. So we just looked for a way to make it work and make sure that we didn't have to lay anyone off. And you can get creative. You can always make it work. And I think that was the right thing to do.
It was always about everybody else. And I remember early on after the incident sitting in a meeting and talking about where do we go and how do we get there. And Coral spoke up and she said, we just need to lead with our hearts.
They had made their decisions of what was going to be done, what was going to be right. They didn't need second opinions. It's just, again, who they were.
It's always about the people that we're feeding, the people that we're employing, and how do you reach out to the community and take care of the community that you're in.
But I remember too, after the explosion, and they had a fundraiser, I can't remember, it was an ice cream shop, and I remember there were so many people there, they were selling out of just to fundraise for this explosion for the families. And I remember John getting in the car and really he said, my heart hurts. And he drove home and went in his den and sat in his chair for about a half an hour. And I remember, him leaning his head back, eyes closed. And with that, literally he got on the phone, way into the early morning hours with all the powers that be to get things rolling.
I didn't realize it in the moment always, but on reflection and hindsight, it's really clear that they're motivated to really create opportunities for people to make the most out of their lives.
People outside of the company may think, well, Didion, yeah, the Didions own it. That's not the family part I'm talking about. The family part is, I can go to John, I can go to Dow, I can go to Riley, Coral, and hey, these are my personal problems. Nothing to do with work, I'm having this family issue.
There was always something in me that saw the bones of this company and the entrepreneurial spirit and who they were as people. Like this genuineness, and it just evolved, right? And it became, and even to this day, it's a very deep relationship.
Working with your family, indirectly working with your family. I mean, if you think about it, I spend a lot of almost more hours with my coworkers than I do with my wife and my children at home. And it's a family atmosphere where they care for me and I care for them.
You know, it's not unusual to get a phone call on the weekend, and it's John. And he's calling, just checking in, wondering how things are. And you say, plant's been running pretty well. And he says, I see the numbers. I'm wondering, how are you? Are you taking care of yourself? And that's pretty special.
We really do care about each other. I've seen employees gather together and go put a roof on a house for a coworker because that's what they needed, and weren't able to do it themselves.
I think it's evident to every single person that we bring in, you know, as a prospective team member, as a customer, right, as a partner.
Yeah, I would say we're definitely a family. We're a family-owned business, and we're a family company. Our team is a family with all the good and the bad and the dysfunction that comes with it.
They helped me develop to the role that I am, from a person that's just out there from a day-to-day dumping corn trucks to building my role as a maintenance manager. Just personal growth from that standpoint really just helps me build my family, take care of my family.
If you ask them what really makes them fulfilled, at the end of the time, when they step away, they're not going to say, well, that we grind X amount of corn, or that we sold X amount of gallons. The things that we do remember are how we were able to impact our community, folks that we coached up and saw and watched grow throughout the company and take on different responsibilities.
If they ever own up to it, I think they would tell you that what they do is they build communities.
So something I share with people who are considering joining our team is that we are very blessed to have a second generation that is not just working in the business because they're family. They are very smart business people, and they really are providing the leadership for the future.
John approached me 11 years ago and he said, I'd like you to interview my son, Riley, whom I'd never met, because I'm thinking about having him join the business. But if you don't like him, I won't bring him in. And I said, well, John, I like him. I said, he's going to be great. And he goes, no, I really want you to interview him.
Coral has inherited a problem-solving mentality, and from Dow, I think that she gets some satisfaction from helping others by solving problems.
And there are moments where I don't even have to be looking at him. I can hear John talking and Riley is there, I think it's such an awesome dynamic though,
I feel really lucky because he is so easy to work with, and he's smart and he's business-minded, and we're colleagues and we're friends and we're relatives. It's a great dynamic.
Coral joined the company as our attorney not long before we had our incident. And so you talk about a baptism into the business and coming in at a very difficult time. But Coral has the style, the grace, the intelligence, the wit to handle that.
It's not unusual for you to see Riley in steel toes pushing a broom side by side with our employees. He wants to connect, and he wants to hear how things are going, and he wants to get their ideas for how to make it better.
I think nothing's changing. We will be who we are. We're always going to be family-oriented and the leading with our hearts. That's just who we're going to be, and we're always going to be creative and looking for the next thing and growing and changing. I think we thrive on that, the challenge.
At the end of the day, and I think one of the things I'm really grateful for most all of our company is we can do that, and at the end of the day, walk away and go, you want to go grab a beer? And so that part they've been able to also, I think, separate between business and family. And so they do. There's a deep trust that's pretty rare in family businesses.
John and Dow built such an amazing company. Riley and I are just blessed to be able to carry that forward.
Dow and I have started something that we're proud of and that we're excited that our kids are involved in the business. So it's kind of like we've created something that now they can just take and go and grow and make something happen. And it'll be fun and exciting to see just what they do and where they take the business from here.
Hey, John and Dow, congratulations on this 50th year anniversary. I wish I could be there by you guys to celebrate.
Congratulations to Grandpa Dow on a wonderful career. We're so proud of you for your work ethic and your passion and your commitment. And you're inspiring to all of us. Right, Pee-Pee?
Grandpa is really strong and a hard worker. He also likes to get out a ladder and climb on buildings if someone's stuck on top and their ladder fell down. You could get them down because he would put up his ladder.
Happy anniversary, Dad. Congratulations on 50 years. Say happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Been a journey. Proud of you guys. Proud of what we've accomplished. We've got a lot more to do, and we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you guys, and I'm grateful for that. Hopefully I made you proud.
John, Dow, congrats. Been an amazing ride, and I really appreciate you guys letting me be part of it for the last 15 plus years. A lot of personal growth, a lot of professional growth, and wouldn't be without you guys putting the company together and allowing me to grow. So thank you very much, and congrats again.
John and Dow, 50 years, wow. Congratulations doesn't even start to describe, how I feel about the opportunity to get to work and learn from the both of you guys. It's been a great honor of mine, and I just hope that I can leave a legacy in the world like you guys have. So thank you very much for letting me be a part of it.
John and Dow, congratulations on 50 years. Nobody could have done what you guys have done, and I'd like to thank you for letting me be part of your family.
Yeah, I'd say congratulations, John and Dow. I really appreciate you taking a chance on me 4 years ago, and it's been a great ride.
Greatly appreciate you guys continuing to invest in rural Wisconsin. That's allowed me to stay here and raise my family. It's been very impactful beyond just what you guys do at Didion. The ripples are far and wide, and just know that it's highly impactful, and I personally thank you for what you've done.
John and Dow, it has been my great pleasure to be able to work with you on the advisory board at Didion, and I give you my heartfelt congratulations on being able to navigate the business world for 50 years.
John and Dow, congratulations on 50 years of success. I appreciate the relationship that we've built over the years. You've built a tremendous company, built on innovation, character, and hope to see you out on a golf course soon.
John and Dow, again, 50 years. Congratulations. It has been my privilege to have been a small part of your 50 years in business.
I'd like to say congratulations to John and Dow. Thank you for continued support throughout the years and having me as your employee for 35 years.
I'm sorry, which camera?
So, John and Dow, one of the mottos we have is, together we make a difference. What I want to say to you is thank you, because you have made a difference in my life. I would not be where I am today without you.
So John and Dow, congratulations on 50 years of building this business. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be part of it. I've enjoyed it. You've taught me so much. You've taught me about perseverance. You've taught me about entrepreneurship. You've taught me about how to grow as a person. And for me, you've made me a better person by being part of this company.
Thank you for believing in us as a team. Thank you for believing in us as individuals. Thank you for having patience with us when we make mistakes, because we do. I want you to know that we are here to make you proud of us, and we want Didion to have another 50 very successful years, and we'll do everything in our power to make that happen.
John Dow, thanks for dreaming big. I have one regret of working for Didion, and that's because I've been here for 4 years, and I wish it would have been 40.
John Dow, congratulations on 50 years. I feel very fortunate. I'm going to get emotional here. I feel very fortunate to have been a part of it for the last 20 years and hope to be 20 plus more. Personally, I thank you for the personal growth. Obviously there's business growth and developmental that I've had, but my personal growth, you guys have meant so much to me and your family has in this company. For my family, the opportunity which you've given me to come back to the state, excuse me, and to be closer to my family and have the impact that I have supported me and my family. John, I'll never forget you coming down to my dad's funeral. To wait in line for 2 hours just to say that you felt to represent the family means a lot. And I'll speak also on the behalf of the producers, what you guys have done for the producers, not only in the state, well beyond the state, but what you have done for the producers in the area. For those 500 plus producers, I say thank you. And I don't know where we'd be without you guys. Thank you very much.
And I know it's a strong word, it's love.
Congratulations to both of you. So proud of you, and your mom and dad would be so proud of you too.
Congratulations on 50 years, Dad and Uncle John. Thank you for building such an amazing company. I know Riley and I are looking forward to carrying on the tradition for years to come. Love you.
John Dow, going on 50 years. I just want to tell both of you that I love you and that I'm proud of you. I'm grateful that you took me in for who I was and have continued to support and encourage me. So from all of us, we want to say thank you and that we love you, and it's been 50 years. You guys are starting to get young.
I'm really happy to be a part of the celebration for the 50th anniversary. It's been an incredible journey, and we've watched from the sidelines, and I hope you know that you always have our support as family. And I want to say how much I love you both.
Well, I just want to tell John and Dow how proud I am of them and all of the things that they've accomplished throughout all these years. And, I've seen all of the things they've gone through, the trials and the ups and the downs, and I'm sure there was a lot of times you just want to give up, but that isn't in their vocabulary. And I'm just proud of you, and I love you.